What up, though? Hope y'all doing all right. Cut this down a little bit. Just had that in the background for a little bit. Yeah, man. We back in here. Hold on, that's a little hot in the headphones. Squad fam, what's popping? What's up, cuz? Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We gonna be doing the streaming thing more often. We're doing the streaming thing a lot more often nowadays. But just wanted to kick back and talk a little bit about some goings on in the gaming and esports worlds. Obviously, a lot of things happening, and really, I'm just trying to get back in the swing of things. I may play a game afterwards. I may not. I don't know yet. Wow, that is a really weird screen. That is whatever that screen was. It was a lot happening right there. I gotta turn the brightness down on this screen because it's like banging. I gotta get my whole lighting set up together. I gotta get so much stuff together. But it's all love, man, and I'm really excited to be back streaming more regularly and hanging and talking to folks and just chilling a lot more. And then obviously, there's a lot of things going on with me personally, but my last gig, I just fell off streaming, man, and low key, I kind of miss it. So, one thing that I want to do is just take this time, thank anybody who's kicking back and took time out of their day to join me and check the stream out and follow and like and subscribe and do all that kind of good stuff. But really, just let's just kick it, man, and let's just talk some video games. Nothing crazy, nothing too. Oh, we appreciate that follow. Thank you so much. I got to change that font, man, because I could not read that. I got to change that. That's not good. But I appreciate that follow, and we're definitely going to talk a little bit. Right, Will. Oh, okay, yeah. What's up? How's it going, man? Thank you for stopping by, as always. But one thing that I want to chat about today, obviously, is the fact that the Olympics decided that they wanted to get into esports. So they got like little videos. I'm not sure if everybody saw it. So I figure let's talk about it together, right? Let's take the time. Let's talk about it together. Let's have a good discussion. And the thing with me is I always encourage discussion in the chat, talk to each other, ask questions of me because I will ask questions of you. Because the main thing is we are all fans of video games. Obviously, we're all fans of we all want video games to do well. We all want esports to do well. So one of the main things that I always want to talk about is that sort of next frontiers, and I think this Olympics thing is kind of trying to get to that point. So let me turn this down right quick, and let's take a look at this together because I've purposefully only seen the games, but I haven't seen any of the promotional material that they've put together. So let me let's just take a look at this right quick. I don't I have and like I said, I have no clue. Wow, that is like super crooked. Let me fix this window because this is not correct. It's not correct. There we go. There we go. So yeah, can we stop and get used? You know, we'll discuss it. I want to take a look at this video that they put out. Interesting. Oh, so it's just stylized. All right. All right. All right. Okay, just a little stylized little video saying some of the stuff that they got going on, and then there's the list of games. Now I know there's a lot of people with a lot to say about this, so before we get started, right? Let's just go through the games. So obviously we have archery, which is going to be played through tic tac bow, baseball, chess, which actually is the most surprising one to me. Honestly, the most surprising game on this list to me is chess. You would think that chess kind of would have already been on a more sort of grander scale like the Olympics, but here we are. But chess is, yeah, it's the most surprising but least crazy. Then we have Zwift, which is a game that I have heard of. I've never played personally, but I have heard of Zwift as a cycling game. Just Dance, very interesting choice. I'm going to get into that. Gran Turismo, not that shocking of a choice, in my opinion. Sailing, taekwondo, and tennis. So, here is the thing that I want to say to gamers off the rip is this was always going to be the route that the Olympics was going to take, right? So in my capacity in some of my previous gigs in working as esports media, this is something that we have been talking about for the better part of a decade. It's getting esports in the Olympics, getting esports on a more international competitive scale beyond what the developers put on. So a lot of these things make perfect sense. Archery, baseball, cycling, these are just digital versions of games that already exist. That is not shocking. And I know I saw some tweets where people said like they're shocked like FIFA is not on here. Well, the thing is FIFA doesn't have a video game essentially. They don't have a video game right now. So there would be a lot to go through that because again, the next version of EA football or EAFC is not without the FIFA license. So nobody's going to be going through FIFA for that. But this is the route that we're always going to take to test the waters on this. And there's like 3 myths I want to dispel about this because I see a lot of native gamers and esports people are very upset about this, or at least cynical about this. And I want to say you can't do that. Because here's the main thing, guys. Number 1, the IOC as an organization was never, and I'm going to never going to negotiate licensing with the likes of Riot Games, ActiBliz, Capcom, and all the rest of them. They were not going to do it. Ever. It was already a massive debate for the Olympics to, toy with like having NBA players play in the Olympics. There was a argument about that back in the day because it was saying these people are not amateurs, and that's the whole point of the Olympics is that anybody should be able to qualify for the Olympics. But if you're an NBA player, you're already the best players in the world, so therefore you'll just go in and dominate the amateurs. But then they realized if we don't have NBA players, nobody will freaking watch the basketball tournament of the Olympics, so they allow NBA players in. So certain sports are like that. Same thing with the soccer event. Same thing with the baseball event. Those were all questions that were answered. But the point of the matter is that they don't have to go to the NBA to negotiate that. Well, they do, but only to a certain extent. Who they have to go to is the NBA Players Association, right? So typically Olympic games are played not during the NBA season. So that's a solid that the Olympics, for the most part, does for the NBA, so they're not competing. The NBA Players Association then negotiates with the IOC, or in some capacity, there's a negotiation to say you can participate in this particular thing. But at the end of the day, no one owns the game of basketball. And I want to repeat that. And this is people who know this, they know this, still don't reckon with that. And Squad Fam, you're absolutely right. The NHL owners hate that, but the players love playing for their countries, so they do it. But at the end of the day, and then also with certain things like the Olympics and the World Cup, certain players, if they go and have a good showing, they're able to use that as leverage for negotiations for their next contract or negotiate trades because they've been able to go out and dominate, let's be honest, lesser competition in many ways. So that's a very, very strong bargaining platform for those players. But we're digressing here. The point is that people own these games, right? Somebody owns. Chess is the one that's surprising, but it at the same time doesn't, because no one owns chess. There's nobody who has the trademark of chess. It's just that old that no one owns chess, right? Somebody owns Just Dance, Ubisoft. Somebody owns Gran Turismo, Sony. Somebody owns Tennis Clash. I don't know who, but somebody does. That is always going to be the number one barrier as we're talking about the Olympics, which is the IOC is going to have to negotiate whatever the licensing deal is going to be for these games. And let me tell you, for the stature of something like the Olympics, they're going to ask for a lot. All the major players, Capcom, Ubisoft, Riot, all of them are going to ask for a pretty penny that the IOC is probably not going to shell out for. So that's number one. Number two, what is the common thread through all of these? Right? You know what the common thread through all of these are? Outside of maybe one. None of them are violent. Not a one. Taekwondo, you can make the argument, it's a combat sport, but people are wearing pads. Almost nobody gets blood drawn. None of these games are inherently violent. There is no conflict that requires one person to, quote unquote, kill or eliminate another player. That is the second and quite possibly the largest barrier to all of this, which is there is never going to be, that's the IOC, they have for the most part made it clear that that's one of their line in the sand, right? Which is they're going to be violent. And you can't have something like League of Legends, which has double kill, triple kill, pentakill. Like, it's a bad look for something like the Olympics to have that, right? Even something as innocuous as Street Fighter still is fairly brutal, and I'm using that very gingerly, but fairly brutal combat where people are like doing neck holds and Sharp, what's up, man? Thank you for the follow. Doing like neck snaps and holds and all kind of fanciful crazy stuff. Like, that's the IOC is not gonna go for that. And I'll get to everybody's comments in just a second. I just want to finish this point, which is that is going to be a hard line in the sand. So just about every esport you know of is not eligible. Valorant, nope. CSGO, nope. Any fighting game, nope. League of Legends or any other MOBA, nope. The only one that possibly could have been considered is Rocket League or Tetris. Those are the only ones that will probably be considered true, quote unquote, esports and make it to the Olympics. So everybody's whole thing with the Olympics and, oh, there's no real esports on here. Stop. Because nobody's using their heads and slowing down and going, wait, there's at the bare minimum cartoon violence in just about every video game. So that's another hard line to say. So before I go to my next point, I see we got some comments. Squad fam, counter, wouldn't Riot like it if Valorant and League of Legends were chosen? It would establish their titles over CSGO and Dota respectively. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. Those titles are already dominant. Well, not Valorant, but I think with franchising coming up this year and potentially what Valorant could do, they're already dominant. I don't think Riot cares about that, to be honest. Starshman, has there been any discussion in regards to how the Olympics is going to assure even playing field, any type of country without disenfranchising them? So here's the thing. You can't, that's not the IOC's responsibility, essentially. All of these games are going to be played, the final is going to be played in person in Singapore. So the matches are going to start in person. There's going to be qualification rounds. I don't know how that aspect of it is going to go. But here's when the window is supposed to start, which is literally tomorrow. Or excuse me, literally today. Then the qualifying window is going to end, and then you have a finals. So, but that's the thing, Squad fam. Valve, CSGO, and Dota can't go because there's too much violence. And then on top of that, you have Dota, which has like demons and little monsters and stuff popping up out of the ground. There's no way the IOC is going to allow either one of those games. Right, and then counter-terrorist win. You really think they're going to allow that to be said on the Olympic stage? Terrorist win. You really think the Olympics are going to do that? Come on, my baby. It's not going to happen. So everybody's got to get that part out of their mind. And that's the thing that I get sort of frustrated with esports, is because everybody feels as if the world is going to all of a sudden acquiesce to the esports market and esports sensibilities when the vast majority of the sports entertainment world conforms to the NBA, MLB model, which is no portrayals of violence, weird morality clauses, and so on and so forth, because they got to keep the product as squeaky clean as possible. And as we know, as a cohort, as a community, so to speak, esports is not squeaky clean in the slightest. Not to say sports is, but the day one sort of interaction with esports and gamers and all the rest of that stuff is negative, and that's our fault. And I say our because I'm a part of this community as well, but that's our fault. We didn't make it a squeaky clean product, right? We didn't make it a marketable product for the better part of a decade and a half. It's just now getting to a point where I feel like it's super marketable. And it's marketable to some people. But if we're talking about the Olympics, this is one of the biggest stages there is. There's the Olympics, the World Cup, the Super Bowl. There's only like a handful of events that have this many eyeballs on them. There's no way they're going to allow some of that stuff. So those are the things that are really important. And Sharp, to your point, they're random mobile games for tennis. Mobile has an install base larger than every console, and I think also PC. The install base is just way larger. So for a lot of people, going back to that question, Starshman put out, which is how do they ensure a level playing field? Well, if you're gonna have competition that allows for the most amount of people to participate in it, then mobile more is generally the way you're gonna have to go, because mobile has the largest install base. So you got step one, which is licensing. You have barrier, well, that's barrier one. You have barrier two, violence. And then you have barrier three, which is watchability and touch points of commonality. So certain sports you only watch during the Olympics. For most people, track and field is the only that's the only time you watch people do 100-yard dashes, right? It's the only time you watch the steeplechase. It's the only time you watch gymnastics. It's the only time you watch figure skating. It's the only time you watch a bajillion sports. The Olympics is the only time you watch some of these sports, right? But the drama behind them and the ability for a layman, and by a layman I mean somebody who does not know the rules, to watch it and immediately grasp it is significantly easier for track and field, gymnastics, figure skating. Figure skating, people don't know how to freak. Figure skating is scored. Nobody cares. They just watch it. They see pretty people jumping and spinning around, and then if somebody falls, you go, oh no. Same thing in gymnastics. Somebody falls, oh no. That's all that matters. You don't care, right? So the thing with esports is it is natively harder to translate any of that stuff unless it's an analog from a sport that already exists. Ergo, archery, motorsports, sailing, so on and so forth. So I see we got some more comments, so I want to jump back in. Squad fan, overall, I don't think esports at the Olympics is good for esports. I don't think inviting the comparison between esports and traditional sports is beneficial for esports. I agree and disagree. Here is why I agree with that. Is because compared to traditional sports, the viewing experience is significantly worse. It is not. The viewing experience for traditional sports will always be better because you will always be able to see person versus person, sweat, blood, people falling over, drama, people crying, all that stuff. This is going to be easier to see that stuff for traditional sports. It's easier to build narrative in traditional sports. It's easier to care about, the grocery store clerk who decided to dedicate his life to Greco-Roman wrestling and got to the Olympics and won the gold medal. That's some great storytelling, great stuff to focus in on. So I think that comparison does hurt esports. However, where I disagree is I think that it's a vital opportunity for esports to learn. Because unfortunately, what I think esports does a terrible job of, and Sharp, I'm glad you're in here because you've heard me say stuff like this before, which is esports does a horrible job at building narrative and building superstars. There's maybe 3 or 4 true superstars I could think of in esports. I could think of Faker, Doublelift, Simple, Scump, Sonic Fox. So that's 5. Or, yeah. Doublelift, Faker, Simple, Scump, Sonic Fox. Those are people I would consider like superstars, right? Doesn't matter if they're the best player ever, but they're stars, they have personalities, they have won at multiple levels, or they've won at least domestically, and they're electrifying people. And that makes it easy for people to follow them and like them, right? What esports does a bad job of is finding those people who also are very good, who also can be brand safe, who also can be put on the Tonight Show and on Ellen and shows like that, and translate video games to the wider audience. We're bad at that. We're bad. We are bad. We are terrible at that. So I actually think it would be a vital opportunity for esports to learn from traditional sports, because I'm going to be honest, nobody does it better than the Olympics. Nobody. Half of why people watch the Olympics is to cry. is to watch the stories and cry and get emotional and nationalism. Like, that's why you watch it. You know what I mean? So for me, we do a bad job as gamers at pinpointing those people. And as a matter of fact, those people do a terrible job at doing it for themselves, because you can have somebody like I don't know, let's say, I don't know, let's just pull just a random esport out the hat. Let's just say the greatest Rocket League player comes out of nowhere and just is fantastic, great on interviews, all this other stuff, but then we can't keep dude off Twitter. So now he's got this backlog of really toxic shit that he said on Twitter, and these really awful things he's done and said, while being a player, and so on and so forth. And esports has a particularly difficult issue with that. I mean, gamers in general do, but esports in particular has a bad problem with that, and it makes the whole situation a lot less fun for a lot of people. So it's hard. It's hard. Let's see. Mobile removes the barriers that countries face in regards to consistent internet, relying on phone connectivity. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just it's easier for a lot of people to do that. IOC is setting up these esports as a straw man that will continue to discredit esports to a larger audience. But again, we did not make this situation easy for the IOC in order to continue to support these things, right? Like, we didn't make it, we didn't put it into a context where these things were easy for other people to get. And again, like, take a game like football. Football is actually incredibly complicated to understand for most people. And by football, I mean American football. Very complicated sport for most people, right? I think the average, person not in America would take a long time actually trying to understand football. But the thing about it is that football then does a good job at creating ancillary content, allowing their IPs to be used elsewhere, allowing people to sort of have conversations and talk a lot about football and a lot about football players. And I think esports has had a tendency to want to be insular. There was a refrain in esports, especially before COVID, of we don't want to be like sports. We want to be different. We don't want to be like sports, because sports had, well, exactly, and right, well, that you I saw Malik's take, but you're going right where I'm going, which is, how can we as a community go out and sell the concept of esports to the greater populace when esports itself does not agree on what is esports? Because half the comments in here were talking about how the rest of those games, like, were not esports. And how? If it has a professional community, it's an esport. So but a lot of people will say that's not esports. Farming simulator, esports. But I guarantee you, if you walked up to somebody who was a big fan of Valorant and said, is farming simulator an esport, they'll laugh at you. So how are we supposed to go out and translate that to people who already could give two shits about video games, and then get them to try to see the validity in something like Farming Simulator, or even easier, Rocket League or League of Legends or Street Fighter or whatever, right? So there's already no consensus even within our community on what is what. But beyond that is that before you even get to that point, You have to build a culture that welcomes people in to enjoy the product. And we aren't good at that. We aren't good at that. There are people who will tell you that if you're not platinum in this game, or grandmaster in this game, or radiant, or whatever the highest rank in this game is, that you are not allowed to have an opinion on the game. How are we supposed to bring people in? How are we supposed to bring in people who have no idea what these games are, if that is the overarching attitude from gamers? Of literally saying, like, if you ain't down with this, like, I can't help you. I can't help you. And you see it in every esport. Every game. Every game. And I'm not saying this, and that's never something I've ever heard from any sport, right? Well, you got it. You have never heard a baseball fan call somebody who doesn't know about baseball an idiot or stupid for asking a question, knowing that they didn't know. Because squad fam, here's the thing. It's one thing for somebody to talk like they're an expert when they're not an expert, which is what a lot of people try to do with traditional sports when they're not experts. It happens all the time, right? The analog to that in esports is you are not allowed to even have an opinion. It's different from asking a question and then having an opinion. You're not even allowed to have an opinion on a game. I can sit back and I can say, damn, Overwatch getting rid of off tank really made the game less interesting to me. And there are people in that community who will actively be like, yo, you are not a high enough rank to have an opinion on if you think the game is fun or not. So shut up. Why would any human being with common sense want to be in that community? Think about that. And that's something we're supposed to translate to the greater populace? Are you serious? It's dumb. So we've done that to ourselves, but because we feel like we gotta have this one-upsmanship. I mean, it's squad fam, that happens in everything, but I'm talking about as a modus operandi, so to speak, as a default energy. Esports is a closed community. We do not like letting new people into our shit. Period. We don't like it. You had this kid, Booga, who won $1 million playing Fortnite, right? And went on all these shows. Same thing with Super from Overwatch League. Went on all these shows. And you heard all these people talking mad shit, not on those guys for making an appearance, but on traditional media for not knowing. How are they supposed to know? They ask the same questions to football players. Football been around forever. They ask the same questions to soccer players, and soccer been around forever. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Squad fam, like, yes, people are toxic in traditional sports. Yes, people have attitude problems everywhere. But you will never hear somebody in traditional sports who is just a fan say, yo, dog, unless you play AAU ball, or unless you play in college, or unless you play in, you know, the minor leagues, you can't have an opinion on baseball. Nobody says that. Nobody says, unless you were at an academy to nobody says unless you were at an academy for soccer, you can't have an opinion on La Liga or the Premier League. Nobody says that. Because it would be a stupid thing to say, because too many people watch it. It would be a statistical impossibility for people who watch the sport to not have opinions on it unless they play it in a structured academy setting. That is not a statistical possibility. So to say that, which is what esports does a lot, is detrimental to the entirety of the scene. It's detrimental. Because now it feels closed, it feels antagonistic, it feels like people can't enjoy getting better at the game, so on and so forth. So it could be something incredibly beneficial to esports in regards to having a body such as the IOC create, or at least begin creating, rules, regulations for participants to have to follow on the international level in order to represent their country. Well, the thing is that, again, how do you get the developers to agree to that? Because all the developers already have all their own criteria. So how do you do that? I'm not saying it can't be done, but how do you do that? And why would they relinquish that power to the IOC, right? When a game like League of Legends or Dota already has massive international competitions, why would they then go to the IOC and say, you do it? They're not going to do that. It would be kind of silly for them to do it, to be perfectly honest. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the wrong stuff, which is the games won't ever be played at that level. So I'm not upset. If anything, I'm upset that a game like Rocket League was not included, because I think Rocket League is fantastic. But even then, you got little demolitions in Rocket League, so even that's violent, quote unquote. I don't think it's that serious, but it is what it is. So I think everybody's knee-jerk reaction to this and being so upset. Yeah, the Olympics does have boxing, and that's why I say, to a certain extent, I think it's a bit, pedantic. But also, I understand if a serial killer with a handgun and a rifle who loves to count to 4, and when he shoots people they explode into giant bloody roses, doesn't necessarily get played on an international stage like the Olympics. I can kind of understand that. But Rocket League should have been in. That is my final point for this, which is, with all that said, a game like Rocket League should have been in here. I don't see how in any circumstance Rocket League is not included, because that game is watchable, it's easy to understand, it's got great commentators who can translate the game very well, it can be played at a high level, the learning curve is the skill ceiling is very high, but the learning curve is very low. Like, no, I don't think that's it, Squad Fam. I don't think it's a setup to fail situation, because I think that would say that they're thinking that hard about it. Because to set something up to fail means you got to think hard about it. It means you have to have an agenda. It has to be somebody actively campaigning against esports, and I don't think these people care that much. I really don't. I think they see a market that they haven't tapped into, but I don't think they care that much. I think there was not a commission within esports that got together with all of the major players, being the developers, being the publishers, who got together and said, what games can we make or put forth that can make it to the international stage of the Olympics? They didn't do that. But FIFA, as corrupt as they are, FIFA is the arbitrating body of a set of rules for soccer. So they are able to go with power and validity to the IOC and have discussions about their players being available to play at the Olympics. There is no arbitrating body of esports, because how do you do that? I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's very difficult because of the sheer amount of video games. So it's very difficult. So it's very hard for there to be an arbitrating body to go to somebody like the IOC and explain how valid these things are and how to avoid some of those violent things. But some of it is unavoidable. You can't play Valorant. You can't play CSGO. You can't play most fighting games. You can't play League and other MOBAs. You simply cannot play them. It is what it is. So I think on that topic, and Starchman, you bring up another great point, which is, and I mean there are certain things that you could do in terms of disabling certain skins. Yeah, it is like all the aquatic sports, but majority of the aquatic sports are all at the Olympics. All swim sports, all the boat sports, water polo, they're all there. So I get it, but also at the same time, I think people's reactions to this particular story was without forethought. You know, it was without forethought. No, and that's a fair retort. They're not. But I think for something as large as esports and these sports being owned by people, I think it does need to be a singular entity that can go in and say, we represent the interests of Riot Games, Ubisoft, Capcom, Valve, so on and so forth, Riot, whatever. And to say, here's the brand safe games, here's the games that have varying degrees of violence. Because if you left it up to a bunch of old dudes who have no idea what these games are, the moment they see somebody get shot with a gun, it's over. The moment they see somebody get sliced with a sword, it's over. So I don't think we as a community made it easy for people not in the know to be in the know. And even our media, of which I have been a part of, it has not always done the best job at translating how special and awesome esports can be. So I just think we were in a weird spot with this, and I think they've taken the direction that I expected them to take, which is a lot of weird games that not a lot of people are familiar with, outside of like Gran Turismo, Zwift, and like one other. Zwift I actually think is dope. So if you haven't looked up, like, I don't know, let me pull up Zwift, because Zwift is kind of dope. And chess, yeah. So Zwift, you get like it's like a what you call that damn thing? It's like a Peloton. But like you see how it's represented digitally, like it's pretty cool. It's expensive as hell, but it's pretty cool. And I've heard of it, and you do different tracks, and it's got all the cool sort of like elements, like uphill, downhill. It adjusts the bike in real time, and the slipstream stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool piece of tech. Zwift is dope. I am kind of happy Zwift was included. If I was into cycling, I might watch the Zwift competition, because I just think conceptually it's pretty cool. And then also Gran Turismo, easy. And also, by the way, why Gran Turismo and not Forza? I'm gonna let that question marinate for a second. Why Gran Turismo and not Forza? Because I think most people would say Forza is now the superior racing game. Because the crashes are less violent in Gran Turismo than they are in Forza. And Squad Fam, I'm with you on on the Rocket League thing. I think that's a huge missed opportunity. I think personally, it behooved Psyonix and Epic to no, you're fine, dude. You're fine. This is what this is for. This discussion is what this is for. The developers of Rocket League should have been on the IOC's ass. Like, if you don't put this, like, this is whack. Like, if you don't put Rocket League in here, you suck. See, here's the thing. I think it's split 50-50. I think there's a lot of people who would have been very happy with the inclusion of virtual sports, because I think that's a simple analog. I think most people get it. I think it would be easy to represent on a screen. It would be easy for people to get into it and be excited and use the same sort of logic that they have with traditional sports. But there's a subset of the community that would have been just as mad. Why didn't you pick League? And also, people got to get off their own games nuts, too. They got to stop that. Everybody's mad League's not included. League was never going to be included. CSGO was never going to be included. Valorant was never going to be included. So people got to stop that, too, and understand what they play is what they play. And what they're into is what they're into. You know? That's just, I have long come to grips with the fact that soccer will probably never be the most popular sport in America. That's okay. Baseball used to be the most popular sport in America. It's not anymore. You just kind of got to be okay with that if you're still a baseball fan. That's life. It's like that sometimes. No, I mean, I think what Rightwell is saying is like actual, like, VR sports, not digital versions of sports. I think if like they have the drone racing, like VR drone racing, I think that could have been cool. There's a lot of things that could have been cool, but I just feel like they could have picked some different games. But Squad Fam, I will challenge you. Right? I will challenge you, and I will challenge every person watching or listening to this. Why not just watch it? You know how many things I watched just because I wanted to succeed? You know how many black movies I've seen that I didn't necessarily want to watch just because I want them to succeed? Movies that I may or may not have liked. That's what I'm saying. You know how many people are going to watch the XFL just because they so desperately want the XFL to succeed and get better over time? But that requires you to watch the shitty version first. It's a beta. Everybody got to play in this really awful beta in order for it to get to something that makes sense. And it's like, and I'm happy to see that people are saying that they will tune in. Oh, wow. Well, you know what? See, and I'm down for that too. But I'll reiterate my point. I forgot about the ad breaks. I deeply and sincerely apologize. But USFL, all that stuff, man. All that stuff, man. People wanted to succeed bad. People wanted to succeed real bad. That's life. That's life. Sometimes you gotta eat the frog, man, and watch something that really sucks in order for other things to get better. And I mean, like, okay, Squad Fam, I will pose this question directly to you. What could the IOC have done? We agree on Rocket League. Let's put Rocket League to the side. What could the IOC have done that would have made you go, hell yeah, I'm watching every second of it? What could they have done within reason? Because we already discussed the barriers to most games. So what could they have done in order to make it a slam dunk for you? Specifically you. Because I think also people are just not, and this is not a diss, I think people are just not using their damn heads and understanding what this is. You know? You got to think, man, it ain't just about getting Coca-Cola dollars. It ain't just about getting, State Farm insurance dollars. They got a lot of different cultures in a lot of different places with a lot of different ethics that they got to be mindful of in order to get their product carried worldwide. That's difficult, man. That's really, really hard to do. And the safest thing to do is to make everything as brand safe as possible. If that means no guns, no ghosts, then that's what they do. You liken it to soccer fans not wanting the MLS to place a team in Detroit. I don't think that's a proper analogy, considering that I don't think that's necessarily a proper analogy, because the thing is that there is a large cohort of people who want esports to be at the Olympics. Because if nobody cared, if nobody wanted this, then this would be a non-story. The reason why people are reacting is because they want it. The people here in Detroit with DCFC, they don't want MLS at all, and have never wanted it, and have never recorded it, and have never gone out and said that it would be cool. They've never said that. Never. Ever. So I think it's a little bit different. And I think also, it's also kind of an apples to oranges things, because at least that's the same sport. At least that's the same thing. Oh, dude, listen. I was making the reports when the Olympics first said that they would be thinking about bringing esports to the Olympics, and it was met with overwhelming positivity. More because, again, you got to think, before the pandemic, this shit was in growth mode, and people were saying like, "Oh my God, you get esports at the Olympics, here, shoot it into the stratosphere." So everybody said that. Everybody. Rightwell was there. He was writing at the time. Before the pandemic, everybody was talking about, if Street Fighter gets to the Olympics, if Rocket League gets to the Olympics, if this or that or this game or that game gets to the Olympics, look, this thing, the top is going to blow off this. And we all going to get money. Because ultimately, that's what it boils down to. But that's, everybody's energy was super hype. And then the moment the IOC came out and said, we will not entertain any games, never that, bro. You can get out of here with that. You almost got banned just for putting that out there. Garbage ass Spurs. But anyway, you got to remember that the energy for that was so positive. But the moment the IOC said that they will not entertain any games with violence, everybody went, the air went out the room. And people jumped out because they already knew what was coming, which was this. And I don't understand how everybody forgot, because the IOC came out and said that. So I don't know. That's the thing with me. You know what I'm saying? And I respect that. I respect if you're saying you don't want the IOC to touch esports. I get it, man. I get it. I get it 1,000%. Yeah, and yes, right. Well, and then it became the Olympics needs esports to stay relevant. Meanwhile, the Olympics is only the most relevant sporting event in the history of mankind. But it needs us. Come on, man. The arrogance. The arrogance. It's ridiculous. And yes, Starch Man, it gives a legitimacy to esports to be included in the Olympics. In the same way it gives legitimacy to black people being better at track and field. But real shit, man. Everybody was mad, man. Or everybody was just so on a high, man. They was so on a high, man. You know, so on a high about the Olympics, and I just don't understand how everybody all of a sudden just did a 180, and now all of a sudden this, yo, F the Olympics, we don't even want them. Look, we knew they was gonna do this, as if y'all knew. You know? No. They didn't say that about the VC. They said that about crypto investment, not VC. Again, they said that about crypto investment and Saudi Arabia investing. Just regular old VC, they weren't mad about that. No, dude, listen, Squad Fam, I've been on the inside. You know, and I agree to a certain extent. Any investment, well, it did bring legitimacy. Without that investment, you don't have a lot of this infrastructure that we talking about. Flat out. You think the Overwatch League happens without people spending $20 million a franchise? That league doesn't happen. And I mean, look where it's at now, but that's not the owner's fault. That's ActiBlizz's fault. The owners did their part. Put on the homestands. They did what they were supposed to do. And I don't often side with ownerships of teams. I'm an Arsenal fan. I do not often side with ownership. Undergang, you know what, man? I think in the future, I'm gonna have to have a soccer podcast or a soccer show too, man. We gonna hop on and we gonna talk some football for real. That's real spit. The league is having to backpedal and OWL is having to backpedal. Yeah, they're having to backpedal because the owners want their fucking money. It's not necessarily the moment things turn down. You can't have a game that you don't update for 3.5 years and then announce a new game that doesn't come out and expect people to still appreciate the follow. And expect people to still show interest. That's on the dev. Exactly. That's on the devs. That's on league management. You can't blame them. They put their money in, and guess what? For 2 seasons, it worked. I think that season before COVID shut everything down, you saw them homestands. There was no way you looked at that model and went, that ain't gonna work, because they all sold out. I ain't saying they were all good. Some of them were wrought with issues, but a lot of them issues got ironed out by mid-season. And when you saw the excitement that was being driven in them towns to the point where people were talking about potentially buying bespoke stadiums just for this, Philly was literally going to build a Overwatch first stadium. Comcast Spectacor was ready to spend that money. And they did. But also, and before we move on to the Final Fantasy 16 stuff, I'm gonna say this one last point on the Overwatch stuff, because it all connects, right? Oh yeah, man, we gonna definitely come out west. We gonna definitely come out west, man, and kick it with y'all, for sure, right? But here's the last thing I'm gonna say. When Overwatch League made the move from Twitch to YouTube, y'all did not go with it. Y'all didn't go watch it on YouTube. All the people who said they were all for the league, and by the way, I watched it because it was my job, and Right World remembers this. It was my job to watch Overwatch League, so I was on YouTube watching it. But when they made the move to YouTube to get a larger audience, because the install base is larger on YouTube by billions, y'all didn't go. So what happened? It got pushed down and pushed down and pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. Because everybody wanted to be on Twitch's nuts. And I'm saying that on Twitch. Don't care. Y'all didn't go. So the first domino to fall was that. Because in terms of raw numbers and dollars and cents, that was the move. That was the move. That we can argue about, should they have been exclusive? I don't think exclusivity is ever good on a digital first product, personally. But they got the bag thrown at them. But as far as dollars and cents, that was the move. But y'all didn't go. Because y'all wanted it to be on Twitch. We want our drops. What about the game? These teams that you guys say you love. These players that you guys say you love. So that was the first domino, but I'm not going to blame the fans wholeheartedly, because ultimately, the moment they announced Overwatch 2 and that shit wasn't ready the very next year, it was dead. And then I'm sure all the internal turmoil. Yeah, it don't cost nothing to show love. It don't cost nothing. Nothing. I got YouTube Premium. I had YouTube Premium for a while, specifically to watch esports, because I hate ads. You know how dope that would have been if they would have been able to go to YouTube and say, look at, these 3 million people we brought on to YouTube Premium and gave them all these extra perks because they're YouTube Premium users. It'd have been fantastic. But no, you guys didn't lead. You wanted to stay on Twitch. And then that was the first domino. And then Blizzard proceeded to shoot themselves in both feet and both hands simultaneously. So, it's a shame, because OWL is in a great spot, and the thing is, that could have been, if the violence thing wasn't such a line in the sand. Hold on, I got this little heater on right here. On DirecTV. Word. But when you really think about it, at the end of the day, like I said, the three major things are: we didn't do a good job translating. The violence thing was a hard line in the sand, even though Rocket League should be there. I think personally, if Overwatch League and Overwatch the game was in a healthier position, you could have made the argument for Overwatch, because Overwatch already has embraced the international nature of not just the esport, but the game itself. I think Overwatch at an Olympic level would have been fan-freaking-tastic. That might have been the thing that saved the league. It might have been, because I just think putting it on that level and having the proper people to translate the game, it could have been a fantastic environment for Overwatch. But it's just a multitude of missed opportunities, and I think we did most of it to ourselves. Most of it. So, on that note, we gonna switch gears just a tad and talk a little bit about a game that I'm hype as hell about. Hype as hell, which is Final Fantasy XVI. So, the thing is, I looked at that I looked at it was PlayStation blog, the first one I looked at. And obviously there's some controversy that came out around Final Fantasy. I'm gonna just turn this down just a little bit more. There's some controversy that came out from Final Fantasy XIV this week, and I just want to very briefly say this: the game is hot. It looks hot. It looks dope. I can't wait. I saw this type of stuff, and I was like, just wait a minute. I want to play this right now. I mean, look at it. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Huh. Who don't want to play this? Who don't want to play this? I can't wait. Look at it. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. Look at it. But we all know the game is going to be beautiful. That's just Square Enix things. I've been waiting for Final Fantasy to look like this for so long. But there are two comments from Naoki Yoshida. We know him as Yoshi-P. That kind of set the world alight. I'm gonna start with the light one first, which was, he basically said that he remembers a time where JRPGs or JRPG was like a pejorative, basically, and people weren't checking for JRPGs. And here's the thing: I think that obviously is a little bit of yeah, here it is. A little bit of he putting some yeast in that. But I remember when kind of you got looked at sideways for really liking Final Fantasy. I remember that time. I remember the time where if you told somebody your favorite game was Chrono Trigger, people were just like, "You're a fucking nerd. Get away from me." I remember that. That didn't happen to me often because I'm fly. But it happened to a lot of people. And I think also internally within video games, it conjured up a lot of feelings. It conjured up weird, stiff, over-important writing, turn-based combat, which, by the way, everybody, it's funny how people's memories flip, right? Because I remember back in the day when people would talk about turn-based combat and say how dumb it was. Why are they just standing there waiting their turn? Why don't they just hit each other? I remember this. And now all of a sudden people want Final Fantasy to harken back to the days of turn-based, when most of these people were the teenagers who sat around and said how dumb turn-based combat was. Gamers. But I think he's halfway right here, because I remember it. And that's a lot of context, man, because a lot of these folks are not old enough to remember this. A lot of these folks are of an era where JRPGs have kind of been the thing that pushes a lot of that pushes at least graphical fidelity forward. A lot of that is Square Enix, but it pushes graphics forward. It pushes story forward. A lot of that has always been the thing for a lot of these folks. And then especially now that you got games like Persona that are seeing resurgences, like JRPGs are not the sort of, I guess for lack of a better term, cuss word that it used to be, right? So, I halfway agree with that. I think I don't agree with it to say that, it was full blown, like as he says here, it was discriminatory. I'm not a Japanese person, so I'm not gonna tell him how he should feel about his feelings, if he should take it discriminatory or not. But I get where he's coming from, because I was there when people did not like the gameplay mechanics of JRPGs. I remember when they didn't like, oh, why is this game so long, bro? Why is it's 80 hours? What? I remember that. I remember that vividly. You know what I mean? So it's and he's saying, around 15 years ago. So we're talking about, too much reading. We're talking about the mid 2000s here, or the mid 2000s going into the 2010s here. What was popping at that time? You're talking about the advent of first person shooters. You're talking about online gaming becoming a thing. You're talking about things like sorry, I had to move some things around here right quick. You're talking about Halo. You're talking about a lot of things that that we essentially have come to think is synonymous with gaming. And here we are. Them kids were not checking for Final Fantasy, right? The kids who were playing Halo were not playing Final Fantasy for the most part. I'm not saying they didn't exist, but for the most part, those were not the same kid. And yeah, Squad Fam, the kids in school would say that shit. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I get what he's saying here. And I think, people were knee jerking on Twitter and on social, talking about like, what is he talking about, and so on and so forth, and da 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 da. You weren't with us shooting in the gym, bro. We was there. All right. People my age, we were there. All right. To a point where people look at me funny still when I say Final Fantasy VI is the best one. What? The one that's on Super Nintendo with the pixels? That's turn-based? That's your favorite one? 10's the best, obviously. Stop it. All right? Stop it. Okay? So, let's fall back on that part. But, the next thing is a part that is much more important, and in my opinion, much more, I don't want to say damning, but that's like, wow, this is mad green. Word to Ash Parrish, writing this for The Verge, because I think this was one of the few people that I saw really take the time to really dissect what some of this comment means and the effects of it. So reading off the statement here, Yoshi-P said, from our earliest stages of development, or our design concept for the early stages of development have always heavily featured medieval Europe, incorporating historical, cultural, political, anthropological standards that were prevalent at the time. Ultimately, we felt that while incorporating ethnic diversity into Valisthea was important, an over-incorporation into the single corner of a much larger world can end up causing a violation to those narrative boundaries. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. The story we are telling is fantasy, yes, but it is also rooted in reality. Here's why that's and I'm going to say this as somebody who loves Yoshi-P and thinks, the world of this guy, because I think he's brilliant, and I think his sensibilities for game design and his eye for talent and his ability to revive Final Fantasy XIV ultimately may have saved the company. This is a goofy ass statement. Why? Because it's called Final Fantasy, and you can make whatever the fuck you want at the end of the day. Now, I'll say this. It don't look like there's a lot of Asian people in 16 either. They are all vaguely Anglo-Saxon with some Mediterranean-ish looking folks, right? So let me try to pull up one of the trailers right quick. While we talk about this, because I just think this is a silly statement. and why it continues to be, I think, frustrating and hurtful for gamers of color is that we are consistently subjected to worlds that we love that do not include us. And beyond just the diversity aspect of it, it is being able to be active participants in stories that we identify with. Most people don't have that issue. Most European people don't have that issue. Every story that is sort of foundational has been told through your lens. So, you talk about something like, I don't know, the Trojan War, which is like the first sort of war epic, right? Okay, that's Greece. Multitude of stories that come out of the Greek classical tradition, which then extends to the Roman tradition, which then extends to basically all of Europe. Those are all those stories told over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So most people of European descent have never had to reframe their connection to stories. The issue that I find funny is that people are willing to do it for stories about East Asia. That is why you have weebs, because you have people from elsewhere who are able to find themselves in characters that do not look like them. Again, something black people have had to do for forever. The statement rubs me the wrong way because as somebody who loves this particular brand of fantasy, I actually don't like high fantasy that much. Like Tolkien-ish fantasy is okay, but a part of why it irritated me is because it's a made-up world that only has white people in it, which is really weird. And I never understood that. I never understood how you can make, if your outlook on life is that all people are equal, all people are valid, and all people have something to give to the world, why would you then create a fictional made-up world that only has one type of people in it? That's weird to me. Conceptually, as a writer, that's weird to me. I think as we continue to explore gaming as a artistic medium, I hope we get to a point where this is not an issue, but I think it will continue to be. So let me switch back here. Let me maximize this here. So to Yoshi-P's point, right? These people are vaguely European, right? Get some sweet gameplay. God, every time I see it, I just want to play it. And by the way, this is also not something that is going to make me not play the game, because, and this is me being perfectly honest, I also understand when a story was written by the people write the stories they want to write. And so while I just said all that I just said, I also understand people need to have the right to write the stories they want to fucking write. So I ain't tripping on it, but I think the statement is a little weird. I think if he just said, like, by the time we got done, we saw it and we said, damn, wasn't no black folks in it, but it's too late now. Okay, that's probably honest. But I just feel like to say that it's like it's fantasy, but rooted in reality is weird, because it's not like, and illustrated in Ash Paris's article, which I suggest everybody go out and read. Black folks was in Europe too for a long time in various capacities, and there's many depictions of them in artwork of all different types of schools and disciplines, and throughout all of European history. Black folks, we've been everywhere, bro. Like, that just is what it is. I'm not necessarily saying that Europe was Wakanda or nothing like that, but we was around. I mean, flat out. So I think the thing though that I would like to see is just look at this beautiful ass fucking game. But I think the thing that I would like to see is, I think not necessarily to rectify this, but I think one thing that I would love to see, and I think I would be very intrigued by, is if one of these large studios like a Square Enix or a EA or somebody like that went out of their way specifically to say, we want to tell the stories of a person of color writer and put the full weight of our production power behind this, because we saw that pays dividends for Disney and for many other creative houses. If you allow marginalized people, whether they be Black, Latino, whatever, to get access to the things in order to bring their visions to fruition, people love it. And I can tell you now, this drops in is dope. If they came out with Final Fantasy XVI and the lead was Black, first of all, you got the most talked about Final Fantasy in history. History. Period. Because Black folks love seeing Black folks do cool shit. But number two is because it's like the Black Panther effect, right? Where people were so happy to just see themselves in the heroes that they want to look up to. And at the end of the day, why is that a crazy concept? Everybody thinks that this is some sort of like, it's always the play about being woke and this and this and this. Who doesn't want to see themselves in the heroes that they love? Why do you think we love Jordan that much? Because we see ourselves in him. Why do you think we love LeBron so much? Because we see ourselves in him. It's very simple. It's very simple. And it's not just about skin. It's also about shared background, shared experience, shared culture. So all of that is fine and dandy. To say I understand the energy coming from the African American and Latino communities and people of color across the world about that particular statement. I think it was a statement that probably didn't need to be said. I think it could have been said a different way. But at the end of the day, I will say this. I don't necessarily need to be in everything. Who handled this the best? The Witcher TV show. Why? Because they ain't say shit about it. That was that was one of the best depictions of a diverse world I'd ever seen. Why? Because it wasn't a fucking talking point. You had people who were Black, who were fucking mages, they were elves, they were guards, they were humans, they were monsters, they were everything. They were just there. And guess what? It's the same thing. We just here. We no different from nobody else, just here. There's no reason why there's not Black elves, white elves, whatever. They're elves. They don't exist. Make them look however you want to make them look. But is it going to kill you to make one Latino? No. Is it going to kill you to make one Black? No. It's made up. Oops. Clicked the wrong button here. But I just wanted to bring this up to show, first of all, Odin getting busy. Right? So we see this dude, you know what I'm saying? He looks like he's like English or whatever. Oh, girl looked like she was like Irish or German, the girl who turns into Garuda. But where's my man's? Damn. Where he at? I guess he ain't in this trailer. I could have swore he was. Dude, this shit looks so sweet. I don't care what nobody say. I'm playing the game. I mean, I already bought it, but whatever. I think I pulled up the wrong one. Yeah, I pulled up the wrong one. There it was. It was this trailer that I actually wanted to pull up. My fault. Where dude at? Yeah, this dude. Him, right? So like, here's the. Oh God, I should have just put it in the slow mo. So like this dude right here, right? I don't know. He looked Viking-y, but like when you see him in real time, he's like kind of dark skinned, right? So, oh, did I miss it? Dude, man, my man look nuts, bro. It's great. Everything about this is great. Hold on, y'all see this convergence too? Even with the bops, we out here, dude. It's man, it's like I'm good at streaming or something. So actually, that could be the lighting, cause he was like in an area with like some candles and shit. Um, let's see here. Dude, when your shit still looks good in slow motion, that's how you know you onto something. But the point I was gonna bring up, which is, that dude is from an area where it's like sunny and sandy. So he's a little bit darker than everybody else. So if you could if you had a wherewithal to put in people who are at least different skin hues because they come from different climates and have different diets, then you can put in some black folks. It's as simple as that. But anywho, I'm hungry as hell. So, with that said, I was gonna talk about Mandalorian today, but I ain't watch it because I forgot that Arsenal played today. So I watched the Arsenal match, which we won, by the way. We are top of the league, 5 points clear. You already know. And so I think next time I hop on stream, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Mandalorian, whatever other news is popping in the world. And like, let's keep this going, man. Like, I really appreciate you guys hopping in chat and making the conversation really engaging and really dope. I really enjoyed this. And I would like to do it more in the future. So I'm gonna come up with a schedule in the near future for when we do this and when I go live, and we're gonna be able to do this, and then maybe even play some video games together. I don't know, but I love talking about video games with folks, and I love talking about business of games. It was, yeah, I'm with you. It was good times. We all here, maybe we can hop on, have some discussions. Maybe I might do like a caller thing where we all hop on Discord and I take your call live or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Taking it back to the old radio days. You know what I'm saying? So let's just keep the good energy going. Let's keep the good vibes going. Let's make sure that we take care of one another. And one of the main things, man, that I want us to say as gamers is let's do our best to welcome people into this fold. We all love this hobby. We all love video games. We all love talking about them. We all love playing them. We all want the industry to succeed, move forward, and to continue growing. And it's going to be really hard to do as long as we keep gatekeeping it from other people. So let's make sure we don't demonize people who don't know esports. Let's not demonize people who only play on mobile. Let's not demonize people who only can play on console, like that PC Master Race bullshit. That's dumb. Let's stop that, right? Let's stop the Xbox versus PS4 gang banging. Like, let's stop that, man. And I'm guilty, especially of the console wars, but that's the era I grew up in. But let's stop it, man, because where we are right now is, I can't recall a better time to be a fan of games. I'm playing stuff all the way down from some of the weirdest indie games, all the way up to being excited for, you know, Jedi Survivor, Final Fantasy XVI, in the biggest AAA of the AAA. So if you're a gamer, you eating good right now. So why not share the wealth? Why not share the experience? Because at the end of the day, that's all we want. What would be the point in winning the World Cup if you're the only person that knows about it? It's dumb. We all love collective experiences, man. So let's continue to share these experiences that we have with video games with other people. And then let's come back to my channel and talk about it. So I'll holler at y'all later. Have a good one. Don't forget to hydrate. And everybody have a good and safe evening, too.